Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with my review for Borderlands Game of the Year Edition. My friend and I have been putting in the work on this game because we have been looking forward to it for so long. Ever since the announcement of the Handsome Collection, we've all wondered, where is Borderlands 1? Why has it not been remastered? Now it's finally here after being out for 10 years, and the timing is right as we have Borderlands 3 at the end of this year. Now this review is going to be a little bit different because we often don't cover remasters on the channel, but we're going to be focusing on the new additions to the game and not really the core game itself. Since it's been around for so long, I feel most of us have a general idea of what Borderlands 1 is about, the characters in game, the skill trees. So let's talk about the new additions and whether or not this is worth the $30 price of admission, starting off with the biggest change, I believe, which is the addition of a mini-map, which I personally find worth the price of admission alone. As someone who's recorded a lot of Borderlands videos in the past, whenever I hopped on Borderlands 1 to spice up the gameplay a little bit, I'd frequently get lost in dungeons because I had no idea how to escape. The dungeons in Borderlands 1 aren't created like what we've seen since after Skyrim, which is everything kind of loops into a full circle. No matter what happens at the end of the dungeon, it leads to a quick exit. That's not consistent in Borderlands, and so it's very important to have a mini-map because it's easier to navigate out of these dungeons, especially when you're in Sledge's hideout. Holy smokes, is that tough. Also, one weird change with the mini-map is that the player icon is always blinking, which once you notice it, it's one of those things that's hard to forget and it becomes oddly distracting. Maybe that's just me, but anyway, I'm more about just making everyone aware of everything in the game they are buying. Just my thoughts on that. Another huge addition, which once again is a big bonus, is the FOV slider. Bless up. This makes the gameplay feel smoother, less weighted, the guns aren't constantly in your face, and as I've gained more and more on PC, FOV sliders are a must across all systems. I've been told there is an FOV slider on console, so do keep that in mind if you are picking it up there, and you're going to want to make use of it. Bump that thing up, man, and start seeing the entirety of the world around you, not just the gun in your face. Now, all is not perfect in the Borderlands Game of the Year edition. I did encounter some technical glitches, such as, for example, New Haven and the Secret Armory of General Knox giving me some really bad frame rate dips. Now, I can run really big games on the highest settings and never have a single issue, so I'm going to assume that this is the port itself and not my rig. Especially because when I go into the settings, I change things up, I'd make it the lowest settings, I turn off all certain types of effects, and still the game would chug quite a bit in certain areas, thus indicating that the port is not well optimized and still needs a bit of work in the terms of patching. However, what is added in turn are legendary weapons, which are a fun incentive for even the most experienced Borderlands players to hop back in. In fact, when you start right off, so long as you've played a previous Borderlands game on your console, they'll actually recognize that and give you one of the brand new legendaries, which is a triple shot RPG. So there's fun things to come back in and discover, and this is something we don't see all too often in remasters nowadays. Often it's a fresh coat of paint, slap the $60 price tag on there, and ship it. But with these new additions, on top of the fresh coat of paint, I was actually quite surprised that 2K didn't take advantage and hike the price up a bit. $30 is awfully fair for some of the weird anti-consumer things they've done in the past. Now with not only the new legendary weapons, but also the golden chests in both Firestone and New Haven, that adds a bit of allowing you to get legendary and overall really powerful weapons right off the bat, which can lead to some balance issues. You become easily OP, you level past the main story quite quick, and for those who are curious, we did it on stream. The final boss in our first playthrough did take us only 15 seconds. So the lack of balance may bug some, and you should be aware of it, but it also benefits running through this game with multiple characters, considering how short it is, clocking in at roughly 12 hours, and that's not counting for the DLC, which will push you right past the 20-hour mark. One thing that often goes under the radar with Borderlands 1 is that you stick with your weapons for far longer in this game, which I find to be a very positive aspect of the title, because in 2, it's like a revolving door. You're always swapping out your guns after almost every single gunfight, which has its own set of pros and cons depending on the player you are. For me, I really liked how in Borderlands 1, when I got the legendary Violence Revolver, I had it from level 15 till the end of the game. Now granted, that's a legendary, but how about a purple SMG? certainly that's something that you could swap out at any point in the game, and it's more likely that you will. But that I stuck with from level 18 to level 24. Guns are with you much longer in Borderlands 1 and allows you to familiarize yourself with the types of guns and the gun makers, which I think 2 doesn't do that great of a job with because it assumes you already know. And also I think 2's gameplay loop is a bit faster than Borderlands 1 in terms of mission structure, how often you're doing missions, and how often you are swapping out weapons. It's not a knock on Borderlands 2, but I really prefer how Borderlands 1 encourages you to pick a class, build for a weapon type, and then stick with that weapon type. And often when you find that good weapon, it feels like such a great, empowering fit. And when I was flying around with my SMG as Lilith, it felt so damn good compared to any Borderlands experience I've had in the history of playing this franchise. Furthermore, I was reminded of how little storytelling is really in Borderlands 1 outside of a few audio logs. It shows how far 2 really took this series, but you did see signs of a developmental pivot in the DLC for 1, such as when you're in the Secret Armory of General Knox DLC and you start seeing more audio logs popping up, you see people communicating to you through the Echo Net in the middle of quests, you see more humor being interjected. The series really starts to take on an identity more than just shooting and looting, so it's a cool history lesson as well. On the side of things that continue to be issues, anytime my friend and I were playing in our co-op sessions, the mics would randomly come to life out of nowhere and we'd have to go in and go from push to talk, cycle through the options and go back to push to talk one more time so that we wouldn't have to hear each other twice over between both Discord and the in-game microphones. And while this never happened to me, my friend who I was playing co-op with said the map would disappear from them quite a few times. My audio actually cut off during some of the echo logs a few times, which was quite frustrating since it was during parts of the little amount of storytelling that was there. But all in all, with those issues accounted for and all of the positive additions made to the game, I still find this to be the definitive way to play Borderlands 1. Any issues I encountered along the way were nothing to really put me off of the game or say, oh my god, how could they do this? Mainly because it was fairly priced, but also because nothing broke the game. This is a step forward, I feel, compared to the BioShock collection that released, which was awful on PC, didn't add anything new to the games itself, and then on top of that charged the full $60 price. It looked like Take-Two had actually learned from the remaster of that series and did a great job pricing it and adding new content to Borderlands and getting fans more hyped up for Borderlands 3. So all in all, is this worth your $30? Yes, whether you are a new Borderlands fan or an old Borderlands fan, you should definitely be giving this one a rip just so you can get familiar with the characters. I know I didn't highlight in my review a lot of the storytelling that is there because there hardly is any, but you want to connect with these characters because it makes 2 impactful, and in turn, Borderlands 3 will be more impactful. As I alluded to earlier, Borderlands 1 isn't super long, so it's not going to eat into all of your free time, whether you have a little or a lot when playing this game again, so you can manage to catch up on the entirety of the Borderlands series before 3 comes out with a lot of ease. Anyway, that'll do it for my review for Borderlands Game of the Year edition. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Fire away, ladies and gentlemen. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.